Hey everyone, welcome to patch 9.7. I've tried to separate this out today into sections to make it a bit easier to follow, so let me know if it helps or not, but we've got 22 changes to cover. For that, Season 1 of Quarterback is starting right now, and to celebrate, if you play 5 challenges, just 5 this week, which is super easy, you'll be entered to win every single KDA skin. So if you haven't joined the fighters yet, now is a really good time to do it. There's a link down below to do that. Help us climb the ranks. You download it, you accept a challenge before each game like I do CS because I'm an AD carry main. You win some, you get some coins, you use those for skins, and it's that simple. Today I want to start with some main changes that you probably should know, so 2 of our biggest ones I guess, and the first one is for Silas. Health regen has been decreased by 2, your W damage has been lowered by 10 rank 1 and 30 rank 5, that's obviously more for the empowered, but your E cooldown has been increased to 18 at rank 1 from 12, so a 6-second increase. I think I've seen Silas twice in a week of solo queue because he's banned every single game at the moment, and when he's not, he is such a pain in the ass. Most of these changes are aimed at the lane phase now actually, so poke is going to stick a little bit more. For example, you're also going to have less damage when you commit and you're going to be less mobile. A 6-second high cooldown is way longer and you're not going to be as safe with that. You can't be as aggressive either. It's a pretty big nerf. One thing about this though that we do talk about is most people max their Q now because of the consistent nerfs to his W. So that means that if he does fight you because he's maxing his Q, that's only 10 damage less. If you trade and you get him lower first, these changes are really good. But if not and he engages on you, get hit by the chains, then he does very similar damage to right now. He's probably still going to kill you, so you better keep that in mind. The other big one is to KO. So the armor growth and health regen have been decreased. Your Q cost has also been increased. Your W movement speed has been decreased and the cost increased on that. And your E damage reduced, but now is an AP ratio and you need 400 AP to do the same damage. They're trying to make her less reliant on levels and more on items, but they designed her to play around levels, so that doesn't really make much sense. Ignore the armor growth because that isn't going to make too much difference, to be honest. By the time you're level 16 and you feel it, like you're pretty much overpowered, right? The health regen is so that you can poke it down a bit more in the lane phase though. The mana cost increase across the board mean that she can't get klepto procs as easily, really. And if you think about it, in lane, that's what you aim for, right? Use your abilities, you trade, and this will run you out of mana faster. The damage-wise nerf is the E, and this is what most people max, so that is 4% less damage to start team fights, and that does kind of suck. If you build AD, that's always going to be 4% less. AP, eventually you're going to get it back up again, but some people actually max their Q right now, and it's still quite good. So you can dodge this nerf kind of a bit more by doing that if you want to. Basically though, late game, if you have more than 500 AP, you're actually going to be doing more damage. Sort of mana costs don't really matter at that point. You'll do more percentage missing health damage, which is pretty scary. So we do have an update to Wits End on this patch as well. Attack speed, magic resist, and cost have been increased. It now also grants move speed. The on-hit damage is lower earlier, but higher later, and it no longer steals magic resist, but it now heals on hit. So this is really good on the bruisers now, by the way. Maybe a bit worse for AD carries, or very similar anyway. If you need magic resist as an Irelia or something, right, you can get more Mortius, but if you're not getting burst down, it's not really that good, but this is sick though. Magic resist heals you, attack speed, like this on a Jax or Irelia is bonkers. You know as well, when you throw in a Rage Blade late game, the on-hit is actually so high now with the damage. I think Wits End will be kind of bad early, or it should be, but it'll be really good as a third item or later. The on-hit damage is going to be higher. That means you heal for more as well later into the game, and it turns into a really good item. It'll be good on range as well, but more for the damage rather than the heal, I think. Imagine this on a Varus or a Cogmore who have a ton of attack speed. That could work really well. Jumping into our nerfs of the patch then, the first one that we're going to look at today is a pretty big one to Lissandra. Her Q cooldown has been increased to 10 seconds rank 1. It goes down to 4 from 6 to 3. It's quite big because it's most of her damage in the lane phase. It's a wave clear as well, but it's also her poke. It's also not that big though because you max this first and it's only 1 second worse rank 5. So at level 9, you're like all good already, but up until that point, you're not very happy. The main issue Lissandra will have now, I think, is having like no lane control. So she'll be pushed into a tower way more, miss more CS because of that probably, and it gives priority to the enemy. Everyone throws around lane priority, but basically they push you in and then they can roam first or help their jungler while you're stuck on a tower trying to farm, and that might hurt the most, to be honest. Urgot's also getting nerfed this patch after his kind of over buffs, I would say, last patch in 9.6. So his passive damage has been decreased late. It's actually 2% less per hit. Your E cooldown increased early, the cost increased on that as well, and your ultimate damage has been decreased. I say late game for the passive, but actually it's level 13, you lose to 2%. Level 11, you're losing 1% per hit. So it's actually not late game, it's kind of mid game, I think. Every fight you have from that point onwards though, you will be dealing less damage, and it will add up pretty quickly, especially because you're going to be proccing it multiple times in a fight. He He does just seem to do like a stupid amount of damage right now, so it's definitely going to help that part of it. Plus a less shielding early right now that it's on your E, right? Less safe, less chance to engage. It's just a couple of seconds, but a bigger window to fight him where he can't really do that much and he can't engage onto you properly. Next up, we have some nerfs to Morgana, and this is aimed at mid lane really, where she is a bit of a terror. I see her just as much mid lane in Korean Challenger when I'm researching stuff as support, honestly. So your health regen growth has been lowered by 0.2, and your W total ratio is down 10% minimum scaling and down 27% at maximum. When you say 10%, it's not that bad. When you say 27%, that's quite a lot, but that's when they're basically dead. So it's probably like losing 15 to 20 max of your AP when you're actually fighting someone. It will affect support as well, even the health regen, but not as much as mid lane Morg, where you're going to have more items and especially you're going to have more AP. The final nerf that we're going to look at today is a change to Dark Seal. So the AP has been lowered by 5 to 10 and the sellback value lowered to 140 gold from 245. So you buy this for 350 gold, right, as a chance to snowball, to get your stacks and to kind of like go through the game and just get more powerful. If it doesn't work, it is a risk though, right? That costs you like 105 gold. That is what you would lose by selling it if it didn't work out. Now that risk costs you 210 gold though, 2/3 of a kill. That is quite a lot, and especially if you buy 2 or 3 of them to amp up your corrupting potion. Basically, if you buy one, your balls have to be bigger. You have to be sure that you are going to snowball, and don't buy more than one of these. You can do, but if you buy 2 and you have to sell 2 as well, that is like a first blood's worth of gold. Now let's move into our buffs. So the first one is a buff to tanks, which I'm sure everybody is really happy about. It is to Cinderhulk. So it deals 300% bonus magic damage to minions and monsters from 200%. So it's basically just a clear speed thing for junglers. It doesn't make them more tanky or anything. Once you upgrade it and you finish it, you're going to farm faster now. Champions like Zac or Rammus could be really good in this meta, I think, but they're too slow and they fall a bit too far behind, but this is going to give them more gold. They're going to get more farm out of it. They're going to have less time in the jungle as well because they'll be quicker, which means more ganks and more active, which I think is going to be really good for them, and we might see a few more of these as well. Leona's change here is really good. So her E cooldown has been decreased to 12 to 6 from 13 to 9. So it's pretty crazy. It's like a 4-second cooldown on your E in team fights with 40% cooldown reduction. You'll be diving around a lot more, and this is just way more useful since you need to be melee really to do anything, and if you miss one to engage, it's not going to be as punishing because you can use it again in 4 seconds. Pyke is another support that is getting buffed here actually. Q cooldown decreased by 2 seconds rank 1, and E stun duration up to 1.25 seconds. They're changing him to be a bit more deadly, especially when he fights. So stun is a little bit more time to set up your ultimate or some follow-up from the AD carry, which is going to be really good. But we had this with Thresh, right? When you lower the hook cooldown, it means missing it isn't as bad. You can throw it out more often and try to get more kills, and you end up getting more fed in the lane phase. We have some buffs here as well for champions that don't tend to get a lot of love. So starting with Rumble, for example, his W move speed has been increased to 20 to 40% from 10 to 30, and his ultimate cooldown has also been lowered by 10 to 20 seconds. So one thing to bear in mind is that W buff is doubled rank 1 now, and you would max this last. So that is twice as good for most of the game. Your ultimate is obviously a massive thing. That's why you pick Rumble. So having that up more is going to help. But in a meta where every single top laner has like multiple dashes and is hyper mobile for some reason, giving him more move speed should really help. Azir is getting a few smaller buffs, really. So health regen up 0.2 and also his Q damage up 10. It feels like they're kind of saying, hey, Azir is actually quite good. By the way, you should go and try him because they aren't massive, but they're more like a nudge in the right direction. He got his attack speed per level doubled a while ago, and we all thought this was going to make him pretty overpowered. And if Azir gets a late game and 3 items, he actually is a nightmare to play against. So he is pretty good. Now we're getting into a couple of tank buffs. So Cho'Gath's Q cooldown decreased by 2 seconds to 7. We've seen him in the LCS a little bit, but it's not really a tank meta at the moment, not in solo queue anyway, and he can't really keep up with bruises most of the time because they will just have more impact. Missing Q is really bad for Cho'Gath though, because that's your way of not getting kited around, so it is actually a pretty good change. Mundo is in a very similar boat. His Q damage has been increased now, and his E minimum AD has been increased as well, and the max. Same thing really, like it is not a tank meta, right? But Mundo is amazing against AB champions, and now his cleaver does 5% more damage every single time it hits. Garen is the final buff that we have on this patch, so his W passive stats have been increased. The cooldown on that has been decreased, and the duration has been decreased later. Garen is like a half tank, half not, but they are aiming it at making him more tanky. The way these resists work, by the way, is based on minion kills, so you need 160 to cap it out, which will now cap at 50. Late game is going to be up more often, but for a second less, right? Which isn't too bad. It's 5 seconds off the cooldown and only 1 second off the duration. When it is active, by the way, it reduces incoming damage by 60% very briefly and then 30% after that. So it's actually really good to keep him alive. Now we're going to move into our runes. So Eyeball Collection, Ghost Borrower, and Zombie Ward are all being changed. For Eyeball Collection, your stacks have been lowered to 10 from 20. It's 1 per champion kill or assist. You gain 2 adaptive force per stack and 10 on completion, so it's a total of 30. For Ghost Burrow, your wards now spawn a Ghost Burrow when they expire, giving vision until they're scared away. Your wards killed by enemies don't spawn them, by the way, but you gain 2 adaptive force per spawn up to 10 times, 10 for completion, so a total of 30. Zombie ward finally, clearing a ward now gives 2 adaptive force up to 10 times, 10 for completion, which is a total of 30. They're all the same now, really. They all give the same thing at the very end of it, 30 adaptive force, which is way better than how it works now. I honestly really love how they've done this. If you're killing stuff, you go eyeball. If you want to ward more, go Ghost Burrow. If you want to kill wards, you go Zombie Ward. Whichever way you want to play the game, you pick which suits you. You get to 10 stacks as soon as possible and get the extra damage. So it's actually worth getting these now, and that's so much better. Cut down in precision has also had its damage increased to 5 to 15% from 5 to 12%, and it's still at 10 to 100% maximum health difference. It's basically just better at killing tanks, but we don't really have that many tanks in the game. But when we do though, this is becoming a much more viable option for us to take now, especially for AD carries. Demolish has also had its damage increased to 100 plus 35% of your maximum health instead of 30%. I didn't really think this was too weak, but it's 5% more on these scaling, so it's not going to shred tower plates down or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that early. It's mostly there for tanks who are building health and to give them some split push threat at taking towers as you get further into the game. Overgrowth is also getting a buff, so the completion bonus increased to 3.5% maximum health from 2.5%. I just realized as well as I got to this point that there are like 3 general tank buffs and 3 tanks being buffed this patch as well. But by the way, I really don't think we're going back to tank meta or anything like that, so you don't have to worry. This is a 1% increase to a rune that already statistically is probably the best bottom row choice in the resolve tree, so it's definitely nice to have. Finally, we have a buff to Ultimate Hunter. So cooldown reduction increased to 5 plus 3% per stack from a max of 20% from a maximum of 15%. If you take it, you have even more ults, which is great. If you were using it already and had some synergy like a Zed or an Ari come to mind, this is just a little buff. Plus the runes now in the row above were just updated and are better. So together, it is a good power increase. There you go. That is 9.7 and everything you're going to need to know. All 22 changes. Thank you for watching until the very end. I'm going to be streaming right now, so come watch if you want. I'll probably be playing some Korean Misfortune or some Kai'Sa or something like that. Maybe some AP Varus. But for now, I will leave you with the robot.